Hello there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We had a lot to go at this week because of course on Racing TV we've enjoyed the July meeting at Newmarket. There was also a very good meeting at York, one of their big days of the year, the John Smith Cup Day on Saturday. So it was difficult to choose 6 races from all of the excellent action that we enjoyed, but I think the 6 that I have picked are of particular interest, and we will start at Newmarket with a Godolphin winner, with Yibir, who won the Princess of Wales Close Brothers Stakes, a Group 2 over 1.5 miles, beating the other joint favourite in the race, which was Mostadaf. West End Charmer was 11-1. Big prices, the rest of them. Not a particularly strong race on paper. Mostadaf and Yibir definitely setting the standard, and it was Yibir who prevailed. Let's have a look and see how this race panned out. And I think the first thing to say is that this might not have been a race with a lot of depth in it. Might be a race that people have crabbed somewhat, saying, well, it's not strong and the joint favourite Mostadaf disappointed. But I think this was Yibir's best UK performance. He produced a very good time figure and he has run against the bias of this race, for it was steadily run. In the early part of it, Global Storm has got it all his own way out in front. He's going quite steadily according to the course track sectionals. They're not going that hard. An evenly run contest overall, but the first part of it was quite steady, and Yibir, your winner, is basically last, right out the back. Now he has to be held up. That's how he's normally ridden. You remember him surging home to win at the Breeders' Cup last year, winning the turf, coming from last to first, and that's what he does here. He was aided by the fact that the pace picked up from 5 furlongs out. So they wound the pace up from quite a long way out. But nonetheless, he's at a massive positional disadvantage the way this race went. Sat last on a track where you normally have to be prominent. That's the same on the Rowley Mile as it is on this July course. Being prominent is an advantage. And he's what, 6, 7, 8 lengths perhaps off the pace set by Global Storm. He's tracking his main rival, Mostadaf, who'd been a little bit keen in the early part of the race. He'd run very well at Royal Ascot when finishing second to Broome there, but he didn't replicate that here. But Yibir, although when he's wound up by William Buick, looks like he just stays well, he just keeps pounding along. Well, he's deceptively quick. This is where the pace has picked up from 5 out. They've just passed the 5 pole, and they'll now go 11.63, 11.18, and then 10.66 and then 11.5. So they've picked up there from the 5 pole home, having run 13 second furlongs. They're now dipping under 12 seconds and the taps are really turned on now. But here comes Yibir beginning to make his run. His 7th furlong of 10.66 was when he really got rolling towards the outside of the field, and that tells us that for a stayer, he's a fast horse. He's got a turn of foot, he's quick. He doesn't look quick, he's a tiny bit ungainly really, the way he goes about things, but the figures tell us that he is quick. He came home 4.07% quicker than he ran the rest of the race, so 4.07% quicker in the last 3 furlongs. And not only has he come past Living Legend in second, Global Storm in third, he's come past the whole field and then gone clear of them late on. He also was quicker through the final furlong than any other horse. Nothing was closing him down. In fact, he was going away at the death. He was getting better as he got to the line, and that was a very, very good performance from Yibir. He's not in the King George at Ascot. He will probably go globe-trotting now, and I'm sure that the Breeders' Cup will be on the agenda once again for him. But don't be fooled by this race. It might have not been very deep on paper, and Mostadaf did definitely disappoint in those Shadwell colours, carrying his head a bit awkwardly in the closing stages. But nonetheless, this is a big time performance from Yibir, one of the best time figures of the week from him, and I think there are more big pots for him to come. And let me just cite Charlie Appleby, his trainer's strike rate in 2022, for it is mightily impressive. 31% for Charlie, and that's only going to get better with Yibir going globetrotting. Right, time to have a look at a very competitive heritage handicap that took place at Newmarket, and it was over 1.25 miles, and we have a pattern class horse in a handicap here in the shape of New London, who went off the quite well backed 6-4 favourite. Yonafis was second in at 5-1, Reel 'em in 7-1, Knightswood 17-2, and it was 11s and bigger the rest. We need to analyse this race closely, for I think there's a couple of horses that can go into your racing TV tracker, and we also need to look at a very good winner in New London from stall 1. He beat Swillicombe Bridge, who comes from 8, and Phantom Flight, who's definitely one for your tracker, from stall 7. Let's have a look and see what happened out there. The first thing to say is that we got quite an evenly run race, I think. Finishing speed percentage was 105.59 for the winner. So the winner coming home 5.59% quicker than he ran the earlier part of the race. I think important to note that he was quite handy in the early stages, and Swillicombe Bridge was as well. They're quite close up. Here's the winner tucked in there. Here's Swillicombe Bridge, who finished in second place, and the third horse, not too far off them, but will get some trouble in running, is just in there. So as ever, really, being prominent on the July courses was important. That's why Yibir was so impressive with what he did in the previous race that we looked at. The early pace, okay, it was just even. They didn't go mad up front, and you needed to be quite handy to take part in the finish. But I think the thing that really stands out here is that this winner, New London, was racing off a mark of 99 here, and he's in an absolute mockery of that figure. He was thought to possibly be a Derby horse earlier in the year. He went to Chester for his trial, and he disappointed there where the ground was too soft for him, and they've minded him carefully since then and decided to go the handicap route, clearly thinking that he was pretty well treated off this mark of 99. I think handicaps might be a thing of the past for him now, for he has got a sharp turn of foot, and he really quickened sharply through the 8th and 9th furlong of this race. 11.14 and 11.08 was what he achieved to flash past Swillicombe Bridge and put the race to bed very quickly indeed. His final 3 furlongs are pretty impressive as well, so if you add his last furlong onto those 2 figures I just gave you, you'll get 34.61. So he's come home really strongly. Here we go, William Buick's about to wind him up, pulling him to the outside of Swillicombe Bridge. Here he is, and this is where he's going to quicken and fire those good figures. Look out for the third, Unlucky in Running. Definitely for your tracker, Phantom Flight, who doesn't get the best of runs and is not very well placed. Had to weave to the rail and then weave back out to get something of a run. And the other horse to keep an eye on is Warhorse to the outside. This is a horse that wants to go in the tracker as well, because Warhorse needs a sectional upgrade. He ran the fastest 8th furlong. Remember, it's a 10 furlong race, the fastest 8th furlong in the race of 11.05, but he was poorly placed and right to the outside of the track as well. And this horse here, the third, got a lot of trouble in running. But here's the winner, quickening up, fast final 3 furlongs, 34.61, and away he goes. And Buick's not too harsh on him at all. Here comes the third, flying home, Phantom Flight. Massive upgrade for Phantom Flight. He finished off really well, should have been second in the race, would have been but for being hampered, but would not have got to the winner, who's won quite easily. And he's a good looking individual, isn't he? As you see him go past the line there, you can see just what a nice horse he is. Overall, I think this is very strong handicap form. I like the third to win next time, Phantom Flight. I think Warhorse is perhaps a hidden one, pulled to the outside there in those maroon colours. That might be a horse to keep an eye on going forward. But New London, well, I don't know where they'll go with him now, but he is very good. He is not a handicapper. He was off a mark of 99, which is very generous, and there is going to be a lot more to come from him. Possibly listed level next time up for him. But do keep an eye on this handicap overall. I think it's going to work out well, and I think in a few months' time, if the horse is just in behind, say, well, we got within 4 or 5 lengths of New London, I think plenty of people will be saying, well, that was a very good effort. The Group 1 Falmouth Stakes at Newmarket is always a good race, been won by some very good fillies in the past. And it was fully expected that Inspiral would win this time around, 7-1 on. Sandrine was 12-1. Sibley of Spain was 14-1. Prosperous Voyage, not unfancied, 16 from 22-1. Prima Bacio, 28-1. And that money at prices for Prosperous Voyage proved to be correct, for she turns over this long odds-on favourite Inspiral, who'd been very impressive in the coronation at Royal Ascot. Prosperous Voyage, she came from stall number 1. Inspiral jumped out of 5, and the third home was Sandrine, who came out of stall number 2. Now, what happened here? This defeat for Inspiral, who dominated the press coverage afterwards, was put down to her being flat. That's according to Frankie, who rode her. And there's a possibility that she bounced out of a massive effort at Royal Ascot, where she ran a huge speed figure on her comeback effort off a layoff. So those two things are definitely factors. This is a factor as well, though. This horse, the winner, gets something of an easy lead early on. And what we'll find from the course track sectionals is that Inspiral does quicken up, but she quickens in the race to just get to the leader. And having done that, she's got no more left. She quickens to get there, then there's nothing more. Whereas the winner, ridden by Rob Hornby, saved a little bit out in front, and when Inspiral gets to her, she can go again. Now, undoubtedly, Inspiral was flat. It's not her best, this performance, but the race is not panning out for her. Look at the distance she's ceding. She's ceding the winner. She's ceding, what would you say that is? You probably say that's about 2.5 to 3 lengths she's ceding the winner. So she's got to quicken to get to the winner. And let's not forget, this winner, Prosperous Voyage, was second in the 1,000 guineas. That's sort of gone unnoticed a little bit in the aftermath. She's a very good filly. And if you let her get her own way out in front, well, she's going to be hard to peg back. Now Frankie thinks, well, we're going to have to go here. We're going to have to go and get this winner. And here comes Inspiral. She's quickening up really well to go and get to the eventual winner, but the effort of doing that takes its toll a little bit, and the winner finds a little bit more. The winner ran evenly from the front. In the final 3 furlongs she ran in 34.86 and Inspiral was 34.92, and the finishing speed percentage for the winner 103.3. so Rob Hornby's got it spot on. He saved a bit and got her to come home 3.3% quicker than she ran the rest of the race. But Inspiral, look at this, she was really quick in the 6th furlong, 10.47, but that's when she went in pursuit of Prosperous Voyage. She used up a fair bit of juice just getting to Prosperous Voyage, and then had no more to go on and win the race. And indeed, she was very slow through the final furlong. She was very tired. The winner, 12.98, Inspiral 13.29. She got really tired, and Frankie eased her off when he knew that she couldn't win. But she did make a big effort in the race, which just suggests to me that she's not quite as flat as perhaps was stated afterwards. She wasn't the filly that we saw at Royal Ascot, and she's run pretty well against a very good filly, but she just didn't quite get things going her way. Remember at Ascot she was slowly away and she came from some way back, and it was a very smooth run for her. Here she had to go and chase a good horse who got something of an easy time of it out in front. Rob Hornby, wow, many congratulations to Rob. He lost the ride of course on Westover, missed out on winning the Irish Derby, but here he's got a Group 1 win in the bag, and not only that, he's shown himself to very good effect, judging this to a nicety from the front on Prosperous Voyage, beating the long odds on favourite. Sandrine running quite well back in 3rd place. So lots of things at play here. Maybe Inspiral bounce, maybe she was a bit flat, but she ceded the winner some distance. She quickened, she got to the winner, but she couldn't go past. Let's have a look at a 2-year-old now who won a maiden at Newmarket over 7 furlongs, who is in the 2,000 guineas betting after this debut, and the name is Epictetus, who is an 11-1 shot, just in from 12. Flying Honours went off the even money favourite here. Desert Order was 9-2 and very well backed. Hoped You Can Run was 9-2, but it was Epictetus who wins for the Gosden team, and Martin Harley was the man on board. Coming out of stall number 6. In 2nd place was Lead Man, who was right next door in stall 5. And Desert Order came from stall number 11 and finished in 3rd place. I think this is a race that's going to work out very well. I think there's some nice horses in here for the future. Lead Man, the 2nd, Desert Order, the 3rd, are both horses that perhaps should make it into your racing TV tracker. But this winner was very good, very professional on debut, a good looking individual who's really well bred. There's the winner, just in there, travelling strongly, and did so throughout the race. I mean, went off a bigger price than you'd imagine for a Gosden 2-year-old, but Martin Harley said afterwards he'd been showing plenty at home, he'd been doing everything that had been asked of him. And here he quickens up in very good style. Wasn't a furiously run race, finishes his speed percentage 106.05, so 6.05% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than any other part of the race. So it was a race where they went quite steady, and it was about who could quicken best, and this horse certainly did quicken up very well indeed. He was the fastest through the final furlong of 12.12, despite not being asked for maximum effort. See him cruising up there in the white sleeves. Lead Man, the 2nd horse, keep an eye on him. He runs really well. He finishes off nice and strongly through the final 3 furlongs. He was just a little bit quicker than the winner through the final 3 furlongs, according to the course track sectionals, in 33.97. He's the sheepskin noseband. And Desert Order in 3rd in the Godolphin Blue wasn't given too hard a time. He was deserved of a sectional upgrade, I thought, because he went through the 5th furlong in 10.71 seconds. So he went pretty quick through that furlong. But this winner, I think he was value for a little bit more than the winning margin in the end. And I like the way that he quickened up for final 3 furlongs of 34.06, and I don't think he was really asked for maximum effort. The 3 principals, well, they're right all next to each other. Here we go. They're all in there, and the 2nd and 3rd definitely, I think, would be worthy of a place on your racing TV tracker. Lead Man and Desert Order. Desert Order firing that very quick furlong, dipping well under 11 seconds. And Lead Man firing the fastest final 3 furlongs, but did so from a length or so behind the winner, who was always at an advantage and always holding that advantage all the way to the line. Look at him late on, fastest final furlong, but only just pushed out, then ears pricked. Martin Harley having a look at the big screen to his left. So fastest through the final furlong, despite not being given a hard time. I think he's pretty useful. I think he's ready for Pattern Company already. Where would he go? Well, I think possibly the Solario Stakes would be the obvious place. The Gosdens like that race. The Acom's a possibility at York, although it must be stated, to be fair to John Gosden, who was interviewed on Racing TV afterwards, that he said that it might just be steady away with him, maybe a novice now, and then see where they are with him thereafter. Whatever, they've got a really nice, well-bred 2-year-old colt on their hands. July Cup was the big race at Newmarket on Saturday afternoon, and the Commonwealth Cup winner, Perfect Power for Christoph Sumi and Richard Farr, 9-4 favourite. Naval Crown, winner of the Platinum Jubilee, was 4-1. Creative Force, 9-2, 8-1 Artorias, the Australian Raider, Flaming Rig, 17-2, and 14-1 Alcohol Free 16's Romantic Proposal. And this race was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? Alcohol Free winning for the Balding team. Naval Crown in 2nd, and Artorias filled 3rd spot, and Alcohol Free returning to sprinting in our last couple of starts, and it's really worked with her. Good even gallop set by Naval Crown in front, far side, white cap. And it's interesting to note, the winner came from stall 14, the runner-up from 13, Naval Crown, and Artorias came from stall 12. So all the action over on the far side. The winner's just tucked in there, Naval Crown's there, Artorias there. So almost the first 3 all raced towards that far side, and for that reason, in a moment or two, we're going to be upgrading the performance here of Double or Bubble, who wins the stand side race and comes home pretty strongly. But I think it was important, for whatever reason, that you had to be over towards the far side, not least because that's where the pace was. That's where a really good horse was making the running in Naval Crown. Alcohol Free had finished behind Naval Crown in the Platinum Jubilee on her return to sprinting at Ascot, and she looked to be a bit outpaced there, but here she got a really good gallop to go out. That enabled Rob Hornby to get her settled, because she can be too keen in her races, particularly over a mile, and she settled behind this good pace, and she picked up really well in the closing stages to go and get Naval Crown. And then Artorias comes home quite quickly in behind. That's how he races. He likes to race just like that. Her 5th furlong was 10.97. That's when she surged to the front. That's when she got to Naval Crown and went past him. He stuck to his guns and he kept on well in the closing stages, and it produced a final time, a fast final time of 1 minute 9.47. And that she could finish off so quickly is courtesy of the fact that Rob Hornby was able to get her settled and get her relaxed in the race, and she can then show all of her ability, for we know how much she's got. She's already a Grade 1 winner in her life, so we know she's got plenty of ability, but it's harnessing that ability, and Rob Hornby here off a strong gallop has done it perfectly. And of course the fact that she stays a bit further, well, that's been good for her here. Her final furlong was 12.29 seconds. That's the fastest final furlong in the race. Artorias is coming home well, and you think, well, he must have fired the fastest final furlong. Well, he didn't. It was alcohol free. She was strong at the finish, strong all the way to the line, and Rob Hornby suitably delighted crossing the line, punching the air. He's second Group 1 winner of the meeting. What a time he's having. Let's just highlight this eye catcher for me, Double or Bubble. Wrong part of the track. You wanted to be, there's a division there, isn't there? You really wanted to be over here, not towards the stand side. But Double or Bubble comes home really well, runs a big race at a big price, beating the horses towards the stand side, and ought to be marked up and not being all that far in the end. You see Double or Bubble will run on into your picture. Creative Force has run quite well, so I think the Platinum Jubilee form has been upheld. It's just that Alcohol Free had that one run over 6 furlongs there. That's probably sharpened her up, and she was a lot sharper and better horse here off this very strong gallop than she had been at Ascot. In the bullet points that I put together on the bottom of the screen there, I suggested that the connections will stick to sprinting now. To my shock and horror, on the front of the Racing Post today, I saw that they're probably going to go to the Sussex Stakes over a mile at Goodwood. Well, if she settles, that's the problem at a mile, and running over 6 might have fired her up. But if she settles, then, well, why not? Why not have a go at Baaeed in the Sussex Stakes? But I thought something like the Betfair Sprinter, Haydock, would be right up her street. A bit of a shock result, but if you look back at her CV, already a Grade 1 winner, she was entitled to go well if she'd just settle and use her energy properly, and Rob Hornby ensured that she did. Let's go to York now for the John Smith's Cup Handicap, over a mile and a quarter. The ground was quick at York over the weekend, officially described as good to firm. And Anmart was all the rage in the market, 5 to 1 from 8s. Marajan was 5 to 1, it was 6 to 1 Brilliant Light. Intelligent was 7 to 1, and it was 9s and bigger the rest. It's typically competitive, and it looked like a really good race on paper, and the money was right. Anmart got the job done for the Owen Burrows team, coming out of stall 10, was just in there. Second place was Achilles, who came out of 3, ran a really big race, twice on the trot now. This horse has run well in handicaps. And Intelligent is very much the eye catcher in the race, coming from stall 8, and in the race coming from too far back and running on strongly into 3rd place in the end. So how was this race run? Well, it was quite steady really early on. They went hard for a furlong or so to establish a position, and then it steadied up front, and it turned into a little bit of a dash, and it was Anmart who could sprint best, and the figures that Anmart has produced are pretty impressive, and we will come to them. But this is where the pace just steadied, and visually you could think to yourself, well, yeah, it is quite steady. Look how well bunched they are. They're not spread out at all. There's a few horses climbing over the backs of each other in mid-division, and there's not much of a gallop on Marajan towards the rear, the big white face on the rail. He was also sort of prominent in the market. And the favourite, Anmart, the winner, just the black cap. He's quite hard to pick out, but he's just in there. So not too far off the pace, and will produce a tremendous turn of foot to win this. And this is a good training performance. He's coming off a 287-day layoff, and clearly had been primed for this, given the strength in the market, and really does quicken up very well indeed. Achilles is not too far away from the winner at this stage. In fact, they just about race together. Here's the winner, and in those sort of yellow and green colours is Achilles. And the third horse is a bit further back here, Intelligent, who wants to be kept an eye on going forward. Horse ran really well in the Royal Hunt Cup to be placed in that. Now the pace begins to be wound up, and Anmart's nicely berthed, ready to angle to the outside and quicken up. And it's the final 3 furlongs really that are most impressive from Anmart, including the 9th furlong, where he sprints in 10.98 seconds. Really fast furlong for Anmart. He's on the outside now, beginning to roll in the black cap in the Shadwell colours, and his final 3 furlongs, well, they were pretty good as well. 11.34, that 10.98 I referred to, and then he was able to do an 11.21 on the back of that. I put it to you that if he had been a little bit closer to the pace in what was quite a steadily run affair, he'd have been even more impressive. Here from miles back comes Intelligent, running on strongly, can't quite get into second. But another good run for this Jane Chapel-Hyam trained individual. There'll be another handicap to win with him, I'd have thought, going forward. But Anmart, impressive figures, sprinting from 3 furlongs out to land the John Smith Cup, and some tasty wagers, I fancy, as well, given how much money was lined up on Betfair to back him just before the off. And he's won by about half a length in the end, but I think he's value for a little bit more. And this race, of course, will work out well. It's always a strong contest. There'll be plenty of winners that come out of it. Just look how far back he's had to come from. He's got to go and fetch the leaders, really, who got first jump on him. Intelligent's in here. You might want to watch the run through. I think that's a Racing TV tracker horse, Intelligent. He eventually gets out and runs on pretty well. But this is the turn of foot that Anmart shows towards the outside, and he picks up 3 or 4 lengths, and then, despite hanging to his left, goes on to win. All out, you'd have to say. I don't think he had a lot in hand, but he's run really big. He's run fast. He's just wandered across in the closing stages. The stewards did have a look at the fact that he did do that. You can see how far he's gone. From the outside of the field, he'd have ended up on the rail if he could have done. He's then straightened out by Kevin Stott and wins just half a length. So, a competitive handicap. You think it would be run at a furious pace. Well, it wasn't. It was steady early on. Those early fractions were over 13, some of them 13.02 for the furlong before they turned into the home straight, then 13.81 as they came round the bend. So they were pretty steady until the surge started in the home straight. That's why there's so many of them in contention. That's why there's some trouble in running as well. Achilles didn't get the clearest of runs through because of the steady gallop causing horses to bunch up together. But the horse that sprinted best at the end of this 10 furlongs was Anmart. Off a layoff, he would be a bounce candidate, surely, if he was turned out quickly after this, and it will be interesting to see what they decide to do with him. Obviously, people will think that he might go into patent company now. He won this off a mark of 103. They might have a go at a listed company, but perhaps the pause that refreshes after a hard race is what Anmart will need to avoid the dreaded bounce next time up. That was the verdict this week. I hope you enjoyed all of the action that we were able to bring you. Of course, we can't bring everything. We're confined to 6 races, and there was lots of good racing last week. But to do have a read of my column, The Verdict, on the Racing TV website. There'll be more races analysed there, and that should be with you later today. But for now, that's it from me and The Verdict for this week.